Hey, we have the Ting Tings on, which is pretty exciting for me because rarely do I message anybody and just go, hey, will you come on? And I did. And so I appreciate you guys. Where are you right now? Do you want to say what country you're in?
Yeah, we're in Spain. We're rehearsing for a festival in Portugal in about 5 days.
You know what's awesome about Europe? We were there a little bit ago, just in general, the trains. Like, I'm fascinated with how you guys can get places on a train. Here in the States, we're too dumb to have trains, except in the Northeast, and everybody pees in them. Like, you got the European travel system is A plus amazing. I told my wife, because we went to Paris and went to Austria, went to a few places last year, and I was like, I want to do an overnight train where you sleep like in a train. Does that just sound like the most basic thing that I'm fantasizing about?
I'm a big fan of trains. I'm a really bad flyer. I'm a nervous flyer, so I'm advocate for trains. More trains, the better.
I agree. So we're on the same page. More trains, the better. All right, let's get to some music here. The last, I think, 4 out of 5 TikTok posts that I have put up, and I do these carousels, and they perform pretty well. But I use you guys' song "Home" because I love it so much, and so it's been the song behind a lot of the stuff that I've been posting. And so I know the album is also called "Home." I didn't know that was you guys at first because it's so different from what my expectation was of who the Ting Tings were. So why don't we start there? Like, who even are you guys now?
Well, we've been a band for 16 years. We've been songwriting together for 20 years. So there has been some evolution within that. And I suppose if you only knew us from That's Not My Name and Shut Up and Let Me Go, which came more from at the time of writing that album, we was living in an artist community in Manchester in the north of England, and we were very inspired by Talking Heads and Blondie and the Smiths and all the Ramones, and very kind of new wave inspired. But we're a bit of an odd band because we're a duo, and we always write and record all our own albums ourselves. Jules plays like 5 instruments. So in one way, we have changed a lot over the years because we can. I mean, if you're like a 5 piece band, you're kind of locked into a sound a lot of the time, even if you did want to change, because you can't control what the bass player is going to play and you can't control what the drummer. But we've always been quite into experimenting, and we called this album Home because we actually feel like we've landed where we don't want to probably experiment as much. We're really happy in this sound now. If it's kind of we've grown up into it, it suits our lives. We just love songwriting at this point. Don't care about anything else.
If we were to go back into your histories, and Jules, I'll start with you. Like, what was your first instrument, and who got you into music? Was your family very musical?
Not really. My father was my father's Italian. Came over when he was about 17 to the UK. I think he had some experience of singing in church as a young little Italian boy, but that's about it. He's actually a really good singer, but nothing like he's never performed. But I got into music early, I guess, through my sister's kind of about 5 years older than me, and she started having a record collection before me, and I stole her records. So, Police, early bands like the Police and Roxy Music and stuff like that was getting me fired up. And my drums was my first instrument. And it still is my first, my main instrument that I play confidently. But as a songwriter, it's very hard to write a song on drums. Well, it's not hard, but it's kind of, dull. You have to start, if you want to be a songwriter, you have to start playing piano
Phil
or
Collins.
guitar or something. Yeah, Phil Collins. So I quickly moved over to the keys and guitars to be able to write. And that's when I really started to, I suppose, practice more on guitar and piano as well as my drums. But my drums is my favorite instrument, although now I don't play drums as much. In the band that we are now, we're kind of much more of a kind. I mean, we woke up one morning and said we'd written all these songs for this new album. We wanted to be the Eagles. It's as simple as that. We thought, God, imagine back in the day when those guys had a percussion player, bass player. There was like 10 of them on stage, And we really wanted to go back to that because me and Katie are just a duo. We've been playing with loop pedals and electronics and guitars and punk sounds and stuff for all our lives. And we just really wanted to get quality musicians on stage again. We just felt ourselves, we felt like we were missing something. So a lot has changed. You're right.
Katie, again, this is a very basic question, but for me, and I think for my audience, like, can you give me kind of your origin story, music, how you started, what you started first, where you started singing?
So I grew up in the 90s, so it was very much 90s pop, really. I made a little girl band with my two school friends, and we weren't very good. And then like I said, about 1920, I moved to this. It was kind of an artist community in Manchester that was an old cotton mill that had like 40 artists living and working there. And it had like amazing bands every week. There'd be like, club nights where they'd be playing the Tigra and Talking Heads and all this amazing kind of post-punk stuff, which wasn't of that time. It was kind of the second time round it came, really. But that's what was kind of becoming cool in the universities and everything in the local town. And the second I heard that, I just got obsessed. I got obsessed with Andy Warhol, E.G. Sedgwick, like anything that was like artistic and the total opposite of where I came from. So, yeah, I kind of started off with probably growing up listening to the Spice Girls and then getting obsessed with, feminist punk bands somewhere in the middle. If you hear like my vocal delivery on That's Not My Name, it kind of lands somewhere in the middle of that.
A lot of my friends that have made it at an elite level, like where you guys are, they were in many versions of things that did not work before they either found their sound or what works for them. If it's a solo artist and they were in a band or they were in a duo, or like, were there projects that did not work? And at the time you thought, well, this sucks, life's over. But really it was a blessing in disguise because it worked into what it is now.
Yeah, totally. I think it's easier for us to say, I know we're very lucky that we've gone this far and we're kind of, I guess, in a lovely position to be able to experiment. But the truth is, failure is really important in your, I guess, in your journey. And people in a modern world, it's getting harder and harder to fail. And people, especially with social media, everyone's on you the minute you make a mistake, you say something wrong. But we think that failure is really important. So all those failed attempts at the beginning to write songs or to be in bands that connected, that is the most important part. We actually wrote a song, I think, on our second or third album called Failure, because it's going back, 5 or 6 years, I can't remember, but we were writing about that because we had started to realize the importance of not trying to be something because it's working, trying to be something that is coming from your real deep inside you. And often that fails because you can't connect all the time. It's impossible for a human being to do something right every time that everybody likes. It's just impossible. And it's important to fail. And so there was many bands, many songs that I was a part of, and I think Katie as well, that just didn't work. At the time, you kind of pull your hair out thinking, why aren't we good enough? Or why aren't people liking us or making a call or something? When you get to the point where you do something that does connect, you look back and you realize how important that journey is about making those mistakes and making those errors or things not working out.
Katie, was there a time where you guys were in different projects? Like, how did you two come together the first time professionally?
Yeah, we met in London through, I can't remember his name. There's like an old school
Laurie J.
manager called Laurie J. He's probably not around anymore.
No.
He was old.
Like
guy,
dead or out of the job? Dead? Okay, yeah, just making sure. Go ahead.
No, but he was the very elderly guy there, and he kind of thought we should meet each other to work together. So we met there, and I moved to London for about a year, and then Jules moved back down to Manchester, and we moved into the mill where we obviously started the Tings. But we met. Jules was working with another band. I was in my girl band, in effect, and we both didn't like what we was doing, so I ended up kind of evolving quite quickly into working together and writing together and making a band.
So the Tings would be the consolidated version of the Ting Tings. Yes.
Yeah. We almost, on this album, we almost called ourselves a different band name because we was going to call ourselves DiMartino and White, which is our songwriting names, what we would be down on our publishing, because we felt like it was a very different feel to what people would expect from the Ting Tings, like you were saying. And it was only at the very last minute where we really wanted to keep our independence, and we thought, well, we have to use something that people, why would you throw away the Ting Tings when people have some recognition, even if it takes a year to remind people, in a world now where there's so much noise online. But the process of calling ourselves DiMartino and White really helped with the songwriting, because we could almost feel like we were a different band.
This is a question that I always love to ask, and if it's the stupidest question, that's okay, because I'm stupid. But Were you more of a Blur fan or an Oasis fan? I feel like I have to ask every British friend or new artist because they all have a super opinion on this. Blur or Oasis back in the day?
Well, I'm from Manchester, so always Oasis, undoubtedly. And actually, even now, the songs win Oasis.
Oasis.
Okay, good.
Attitude.
My wife is like 11 years younger than I am, and she just got into Oasis because they kind of blew up again on social media. And she was like, we should go to the first Manchester show, the show they did back home. We did not go because I had to work, but I thought it was super cool that they were back together. Do you guys follow other British or English or European bands? Like I follow bands from like my state of Arkansas. Do you root for them like the local guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And Manchester, where we started the Ting Tings, has, the Smiths come from Manchester, the Stone Roses, Oasis, the Verve, like there's New Order. There's amazing bands come from Manchester for some strange reason. Because it's raining, I think. There's not
Nothing
much
to do.
But
What about when you guys got together? Because what our introduction to you was the iPod commercial whenever Shut Up and Let Me Go happened. For most of us, we're just watching on television, and that was the introduction to the Ting Tings. But I'm sure that you guys were playing a long time before that happened. How long were you the Ting Tings, and then how long until that happened? Did you have any success in Europe before it came across?
we got that at South by Southwest.
Yeah. So we've always been a very kind of bubble band, like independent on our own. We write, produce, we build our own studios, we put our own records out. We'd always done that from day one in Manchester. We put That's Not My Name out with, I can't remember what the flip side was, on a 45.
DJ.
Great DJ, exactly. And we opened a little record company called Legendary Starkey Records back in Manchester. Long story about that. But we've always been very proactive about how we make music and how we put music out. Then, so the answer to your question is, were we doing stuff? I guess we became a little bit of a hot band in Manchester at the beginning when we were punking out, creating our own little scene. And then, of course, we just couldn't eat. We had no money. Putting like 145s out, 7-inch records or whatever in local stores is really a wonderful thing to do. And we miss those days because they are the days that really count, but they don't pay, and we got to pay rent, and we're trying to get on in life. And eventually we got discovered by being, I guess a hot band in Manchester. And then that gave us the license to get out and play bigger shows in the UK and in Europe. And then it was quite weird, our first record that broke out. We kind of chased it around the world. We never saw success. We in the UK it started blowing up, and we were playing shows driving around in a little Mini. I remember that. Katie was in the front seat and she literally had drums on her lap. And we were so excited that there was more people coming to see us than three. And then that record started to run. Just as the record broke in the UK and as it went number one, we left the UK, went around Europe, and arrived in the States. We did Japan, we did, the Far East, we did everything. And then it was kind of like our friends in the UK were saying, like, God, your record is everywhere. It's such a massive record. And we'd missed that because we'd left. And then when we got to the States, every UK band, I guarantee you, I don't care who they are, wants to tour the USA. We are inspired massively by USA music, music that comes from the States, from the Beatles, as you know. And it's like, I guess it's like getting on a bus touring America is the great rock and roll story. And everybody wants to do it. And there we were at South by Southwest, playing 3 shows a day, breaking out slowly like we did in the UK. Everybody was having a crazy time in the UK on our music saying it's blowing up. We were missing all the parties because we were working hard in the States. And we played a show, and I can't remember which one it was. And
it was tiny. There was like 20 people at it.
Teeny little show in South by. And Steve Jobs, basically Apple picked Shut Up and Let Me Go for their iPod. It was actually Steve Jobs personally picked it from that show. It's classic. The Ting Tings come ground up. We're not a pop band where we have managers and producers and a whole entourage of people. We just turn up, rock, write a song, record it, rock. It's really ground earthy, easy breezy type of way of doing stuff. And that's exactly how we broke out really from the States. Of course, being on the iPod advert meant that loads of people heard our music, Shut Up and Let Me Go, and that opened doors to play bigger venues or more venues. And we just went around the States. And as the record started blowing up in the States and people started hearing it on, I guess, national radio or all those old platforms back in the day before social media erupted, we got to this point where we go, oh man, our record's taking off. And then we were gone. And then we left the States, like South America, and we were doing that and people were discovering that. So we never felt like we'd really broke out. We never thought like we'd had a big record. And then 3 years later, we came back to the UK and we couldn't believe how successful the record had really been. It was on adverts, it was on TV, film, radio.
Could go pretty much anywhere. It still can, really. And people know like our first album really well. And for us, it's quite bizarre.
Yeah. And we never kind of truly felt comfortable. We're not like great pop stars, if that's the right word. We're much more about writing and studio and creating stuff and putting out and seeing the reaction it gets and then doing some great shows. So I guess that it's half that we kind of chased our record around the world and half that we're a little bit maybe not so good at kind of red carpets.
Schmoozing.
We're not great schmoozers.
Yeah.
So this sound, you say Eagles, I think the first time that I watched it, even the visuals, it felt, and I hope this is a compliment to you, it felt very Fleetwood Mac-y, if that's even a term. And so that's why when I looked at the name and I was like, oh, the Ting Tings, I know them. I was a fan, back a few years ago. I used to also work in pop radio before I came to Nashville in the States to do this on a much more national level. Did you have to keep on this new record? Did you have to keep from doing the old sound at all? Like, did you draw a line? Like, we're only going to stay and focus on the sound that we are now and not kind of dabble back in that because we want people to understand that we have modified who we are as artists?
Well, yeah, whilst writing and recording, we literally made a mood board of everything that we stuck all our favourite bands and photos up. And I think whilst recording, we didn't feel compelled to write music like our first album because that was like 16 years ago anyway. Our album before this one was actually like quite drum and bass inspired, wasn't it? And so it was. We've always been making kind of different music to that first album anyway. But I think the main thing was when we came to perform it, we did our first sold out London show this year, and we did two. And we was like, how are we going to do it? Are the audience going to turn up and then they're going to expect just this high energy, like new wavy thing, which, we're proud of, but we're in a different place. But what we did, we reimagined 5 of the songs from our first album, like Shut Up and Let Me Go, That's Not My Name, Great DJ. And we actually, we go out as a 9-piece band and it's beautiful. It's like lots of harmonies, very Crosby, Stills and Nash. And we perform those old songs in our new style. So it's really exciting for the audience because we got our friends to like video it and you can hear them like gasping when they hear like Shut Up and Let Me Go performed in a different way because it's still a song that they love, but they're getting it in an interesting way. And they've actually grown up with us. Like now a lot of the comments are like, oh my God, my favorite band from my teenage years has now grown up and is actually still making music that will kind of connect with me now, which is a dream for us because we are creative. We don't just want to go out and play songs that people know from 16 years ago. We're constantly making records and, we feel like we're creative songwriters. So it's the best outcome for us, really.
So you did this record analog, I think I read. And if so, that means it has to be perfect when you record it, right?
Yeah, so when we made this record, we have changed our lives. We've become a family and we have a little girl and that changes everything. We decided we want to be better musicians, so we started picking up more instruments, practicing singing and playing them, piano, guitar, drums, etc. And harmony and singing, we wanted to do more in that than we did on previous records. We were obviously inspired by all the bands that you've heard us, Fleetwood, Crosby, Stills, all the great bands, Eagles, and the way they put music together. And we knew instinctively that if we were going to make a record, we couldn't do it in the way that maybe we'd made some of our last records, which was a little bit more on, technology-based laptops and loads of electronics and stuff like that. So we have a big studio and we lined all our old equipment up, got it all repaired, got it all out, and we started playing the instruments, acoustics, and we started watching all the films about bands we love. And we just wanted to slow the pace down. We just felt like social media is so fast and music is made so quick and it's released and it's over so quick. And although there's benefits in that and we exploit those benefits, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we're doing anything worse or better than anyone else. We just wanted to feel more honest. We just wanted to feel more connected with the art form. And in pop music or commercial music, when you release something, it's so bloody fast. You don't even learn your songs sometimes. You're going on tour and you don't even know what you're singing. And we wanted to slow that down. We wanted our fans to understand that we were learning our instruments, we were playing better, we were writing better, we were using tape, we were using desks, analog equipment, we were learning our craft, how to use that. And it might sound a bit fuddy-duddy and it might sound a bit old-fashioned, but we had just an amazing year doing it. We imagined, years ago when they used to set up in a studio, you had the band, you had an engineer, you had a producer, you had a technician, and all these people would run cables and microphones and they'd reset things. We did all that. We went through that process. Katie would move a mic, I'd be drumming, she'd, sounds better when the mic's here. And it was just like a whole new world, really, of music. And I think a lot of that's got lost, and it's not a bad thing. Again, we in 5 years' time we might be just walking around the world on a laptop making obscure music in fields. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but we just felt like it was time to put back into music that we'd taken out for so many years.
I have 2 questions left for both of you. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Well, there's one that I didn't appreciate at the time, and now I really kick myself. And Jules dragged me to a Steely Dan concert in New York, and I was only in my mid-20s, and I was bored out my brain. And now I'm quite obsessed with Steely Dan, and I can't believe I didn't appreciate it. And another one, you do yours. I don't want to nick yours.
Well, there are many, and for the right reasons, that the ones we love the most are the big rock bands and soft rock bands and yacht rock bands, because it's what we're really into now. But I tell you what, one comes to mind is Cypress Hill. And I can't remember where we were. It may have been in Germany. We were playing a big show with them, and we were side of stage. We'd come off. They were big fans of our band, and we hung out with them side of stage. And these guys were partying on the side of stage, and their show started, and the DJ started scratching and stuff, and the beat started, and one of the guys were out there kind of rapping out, and one of the guys was talking to us. He was going like, "Man, I love your stuff," and we were like, "Dude, your show started. You need to be out there." And they were so on it and so good. He just had a conversation with drinking beer side of stage with everybody. And when his time was to come on stage, he just turned, left us, walked on behind the curtain, just came out, and he was like, "Boom, baby, drop you." And we were like, it was an amazing show. It was just like, I need to be very focused if I'm going on stage. There's no way I could be sitting talking to a gang of people side of stage, and then when it's my turn to sing, just walk on stage. I don't know how he did it. It just freaked me out. It was brilliant.
That's awesome. Final question, and we talk a lot of music here, and if you were to ask me like who greatest British, it'd be the Beatles, it'd be Oasis, and Led Zeppelin. Who do you guys think is the greatest American rock star of all time? We just had this conversation, and so I'm only asking you because we put each other to the test here, and we had different answers. But I wonder who you think is the greatest American rock star of all time.
I put Kurt Cobain in like a Liam Gallagher type thing of like, not just a rock star, like generational, inspirational people, like young people still would connect with that type of persona of Kurt Cobain as well now. Whereas I feel like Oasis have that. It's coming round and like, yeah, young people are still getting into it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. He's a more modern generation cultural.
But you guys do it different to us because we're very English, and we just are so in awe of how like an Elvis or somebody would just perform and just be so, I don't know, just so big in the room. In the UK, almost it's kind of rude to be like too full of yourself and too self-promoting, and in America it's the opposite. So it's completely different type of pop star, isn't it, or like rock star?
I'm finding it very hard to pin down my most favorite American rock. I find like that's in the UK I can do that easy, but in America there's so many moments for us that we've been from Elvis onwards, like iconic. They are so for us over here. It's always different. If you've got a UK artist breaking overruled, you guys see it different to the way we see it because it's cultural here, and it's maybe slightly different in the States. You're seeing it in a different entity, and it's the same for us. The American inspiration or influence that's happened in the UK for the last 60, 70 years has been humongous. It's we're fascinated by it over here. I know we are. There isn't a band that's not inspired by an American outfit at some shape, and I'm finding it very difficult to give one. So many of
day then.
I'll tell you who we said. I can tell you who we said. I said Tom Petty. Tom Petty to me is the greatest American rock star because I could listen to his music for 20 hours and it's all dynamic. Eddie, who did you say? Do you remember who you picked?
The Eagles.
Eddie did pick the Eagles. I picked Tom Petty.
I would go Eagles, but then that's because we are very influenced by them at the moment. We're so in love with them, and I think that sways it. Tom Petty, wow. When I used to listen to his CDs years ago, and he was a bit boring, but when I did, you could see why he was so influential. But Dylan and stuff like that, again, a different. Maybe they're not rock as much as folk or whatever, but the impact those artists had were just incredible. I mean, you can go, I know you fast forward this, but when I was younger, REM, I know maybe they're not like traditional, massive, classic rock stars, but that band, 8 albums in, I got every single record of theirs. It just goes on from American bands. I think it's also because you have the touring circuit. You have such a big country and people can learn their craft much easier than they can in the UK because once you go out, you're out for months. And I think you just get better. And I think a lot of the American rock stars, if you want, or bands, they just have this bigger thing about them. And it's something that you can only get by going to the States.
Yeah, REM, we're massive REM fans. And so, yeah, love REM. Good guess. I didn't think we put them in our top 5, but I think just because we weren't thinking, because I think I'm pretty stupid now for not putting REM in my top 5. Hey, guys, thanks for the half hour. I really appreciate it. I love the new music. Again, I put it on my social media. I was a fan of you guys way back in the day, and I love the sound now. Like yourself, I've also matured. Who knew? Thank you for the time, and I hope you guys rehearse and do. If you come to the States and you're down near Nashville, please hit me up. Come to the studio. Would love to see you guys in person.
Yeah,
Soon as, man.
Just been talking to our agent in the States, and we're planning on being there, like spring, summer next year, doing quite a big amount of time there. So
yeah, please let me know. Would love to promote it and would love to see you guys in person. Big fan. You guys have a great rest of the evening. I know it's evening there. And so thanks for the time and hopefully I'll talk to you soon.